Call the meeting to order, and Kimberly will take over.
Thank you. So we'll start today with our election of chair and vice chair for the remainder of the term of council. Do I have a nomination for the chair? Okay, Councillor McGillis is nominating Member Fife. Do I have a seconder for that nomination? No. Member Disho, would you like to second that nomination? I'm not sure. Can she hear us? Leslie, can you hear us? No. Todd?
Leslie, can you hear us?
I can now. I don't know what was turned off, but for about 5 minutes there, I had absolutely no sound.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, we've had a nomination. Councillor McGillis has moved that Member Fife be elected as chair for the remainder of the term of council for the PSB. Would you like to second that nomination?
I support that.
Yes? Okay. So all in favor? Okay, carried. And Dennis, I'll let you proceed with the election of vice chair.
Of the election of vice chair, I'd nominate Brian McGillis.
Is there a seconder for that nomination? Leslie, would you like to second that? No. Can you hear us, Leslie?
Okay, for some reason, I can hear you, and then all of a sudden it goes dead. I lose sound. I'm not sure. If I mute myself, would that affect my sound?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, would you like to second the motion to appoint Councillor McGillis as vice chair for the remainder of the term?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
All in favor, yes.
Carried, thank you.
We have the approval of the agenda.
Moved by Brian, seconded by...
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes.
Minutes of the previous meeting, December 1st, 2021. Motion to approve. Moved by Brian, seconded by...
Yes, I'll second it.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I just want to make sure it's on. Can you hear me, Leslie?
Is your mic has to be on, the red light has to be on. All right, there we are. Can you hear me now?
Leslie, can you hear us now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
It very barely. It's very mute. Whoever has the microphone right now.
Bring the mic. All right, how about now?
Absolutely, yes, thank you.
All righty. So good morning, everybody. For those of you that I have not seen, Happy New Year. I know we are a couple of months into 2022. I have had some communication with pretty much everybody, as 2022 has certainly been a unique, even more unique time than other years. With regards to the report, my apologies. I know I sent Kim an updated copy this morning after I had reprinted the overall agenda that went out twice, noticing that there were some sections. I thought that it was my printer that had misprinted the report, but in fact there were some sections that were missing. So just to provide you with some highlights. Our mobile crisis response team continues to be very successful. For the term of the report, we had not heard anything about the mobile crisis response team grant that we had applied for. However, we have since heard that we were the recipients of $150,000 to enhance the grant. So we are right now working with the hospital on implementing that grant. Certainly some very tight timelines in regards to that, as some of the monies were that have been granted are for the fourth quarter of the 2021-2022 fiscal year, and we're only going to have about 6 weeks to implement everything. So certainly some very, very tight timelines. I'm happy to report that during that period, although we did return to some lockdown for October, November, December, we were able to pick up a lot of our community services and community activities, including sitting on panels, and we were able to get our CSOs, our community service officers back in the schools, presenting and doing things live. For the community street crime unit, you will see that they have been, and they always are, very busy. We have formed a bit of a stronger joint partnership with the City of Cornwall. An analysis between the partners at the City of Cornwall Police Service and with the OPP. We're in agreement that, you know, what flows from one flows to the other, and that this operating in silos, you know, in two different locations for information sharing and overall enforcement just was not conducive to good policing. And this certainly goes with my motto and the motto of the inspector at the RCMP, Chief Delude in Akwesasne and Chief Spowert in Cornwall Police, that you know, crime does not have any borders. Why should we? You know, it's just a patch on our shoulder, really, and that, you know, the more collaboration we have together, the greater efficiency we will have at reducing crime throughout the United Counties, City of Cornwall and Akwesasne. So you'll certainly see in the new year, you'll certainly see a little more activity where not only are things taking place in the counties, but you'll see more OPP activity assisting the Cornwall Community Police Service in town to keep things out of the counties. For staffing updates, so very, very happy to announce that we had 3 experienced officers join the SDG Detachment. PC Ben Stevens, who worked for Laxol, which is an Indigenous police service. PC Omar Taha, who came to us from the RCMP. He was posted at the Surrey Detachment. And PC Corey Payma, whom formerly was a special constable with Cornwall Police, then worked for the Akwesasne Mohawk Police, and now has come over to the OPP. We are extremely fortunate to have all 3 very experienced officers, very well-rounded officers in all categories. I could say, I would, you know, as much as I love to see people, you know, move and be successful and move on to sort of other avenues within the OPP out of General Patrol. These three will not be lasting long in General Patrol. But, you know, we are very, very happy to have them at the detachment. They've been a fantastic addition. Certainly Detachment Initiatives, if you've read, you know, there have been multiple vehicle thefts in our area. Certainly we were hit with a rash of Toyota vehicles being stolen in the area. So certainly we picked up some focus patrols. We've in the areas where we heat mapped, so we were able to tamp those down a little bit. So we had the initial wave, but through focused patrols, especially during the evening hours, I can tell you that our community street crime unit has taken the lead. We have recovered several of the stolen motor vehicles from the area, and we are opening up greater investigative avenues. Unfortunately, this problem does not just stem locally. It is an Ontario-wide program, and it involves, you know, interprovincial complexities. So when we have these interprovincial connections, things can run a little slower than when we're keeping them in-house, but we are making good progress on that, and I hope in our next report, that we do have that I am able to report a good reduction. With regards to the collisions, so for the total year, we did see a 3.8% increase in total collisions, but we did see an overall decrease in the fatal motor vehicle collisions, which are the most serious ones on our roads. So we are very happy. We are very happy to report that. The contributing factors continue to be speeding, alcohol, and inattentive drivers. Which continue to be the same three contributing factors, and that is province-wide. So you know, when we focus on our detachment goals and our enforcement efforts, those are always at the top. I can say that after 9 months in the job, I have. For our yearly performance evaluations, I have implemented a portion in the evaluation where every supervisor is now responsible when they're providing their evaluation on top of the categories that are pre-populated. They must speak to 3 categories in every evaluation. The first one is traffic safety. So without setting any quotas, but how is that member contributed during the evaluation period to traffic safety? You know, number of patrol hours, traffic stops, tickets, rides, you know, did they do anything above and beyond? The next one is investigative excellence and community engagement. So all 3 of those. And what has been communicated to the supervisors and to the detachment is that, you know, we clearly understand, for example, that, Brian, you know, you might be a traffic guy. And, you know, because you're spending more time focusing on that, your community engagement might be a little bit lower. Mr. Chair, you might be more interested in the criminal side and the larger criminal investigations. Therefore, your investigative excellence might be higher. But we look at it as a pie in the totality of the circumstances. And are you contributing to all 3, which you should be as part of your job? And that's something really that I focus on, that I speak to the supervisors on, and they have started really communicating to their members. I know when we look at the overall traffic statistics that I provided, I'll be the first one to raise his hand and say that we are certainly underperforming. And I am underwhelmed by what I am seeing. The traffic unit has started up. It was slowed by certain factors, but we will be adding on to that. But that does not preclude our regular patrol officers from engaging in that, and that is something that I am pushing very hard on the detachment. Quarterly, I have said, and overall for the year, I want to see a 20% increase from what we are looking at right now. And that's going to be accomplished in a wide range. Sergeant Jerry Holliday, that is his number one task for 2022. So along with his traffic management officers, whom I can report that for 2021, the one traffic management officer that we did have for the 6 months that he was in that position, is the number 3 ticket writer in Eastern Ontario and in the top 10 in the province. So we do have, and then the officers that we will be putting in those will be dedicated to just that. The platoons won't be able to, they'll obviously be there to assist the platoons with major occurrences, but their primary responsibility will be that traffic safety. I did forget a small part, just on a previous page, and I wanted to touch on this because just looking at you, Mr. McGillis, this did ring my bell, but the auxiliary unit has continued its regular patrols of the villages. I know that right now we've been focusing on the villages in South Stormont, particularly Post Road, where we've had quite a few speeding complaints, but having a cruiser up and down there on a regular basis, and the villages of Long Sault and Ingleside. The detachment has actually received complaints with regards to why is there a black and white patrolling through our neighborhood? With concern. Our neighborhoods are safe. Is there something wrong? Is there something we need to know about? And I've been very happy to field those calls and say, actually not. We just want to increase our visible presence. And this not only supports the auxiliary program in their goals and, our overall recruiting for the program, but it also, it's also bringing the confidence that, they're seeing regular patrols, they're seeing more regular patrols out there while our frontline members are answering the calls for service. So it's had a good benefit. They've been out on the ATVs, they've been out on the skidoos, they've been doing all the trails. I'll be putting them out on the marine program as well this coming season. So when we put an auxiliary out on the marine program, that means I get to bring a frontline member back to frontline duties. Pardon me. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that. We're very happy with the auxiliary program. We had a bit of a slowdown again because of COVID, because of the lockdowns, but for the new year, it will be full bore. I hope that everybody able to see that Auxiliary Staff Sergeant Al Jaudoin retired after 40 years of dedicated service to the program. I know we haven't had the opportunity to do anything official for him. However, we will be certainly doing something, and I certainly will be sending an invitation out to the board to attend, because 40 years of dedicated service, volunteer service in that capacity, and that dedicated service has benefited not only the detachment but the communities tremendously over those years. So. Pardon me? Al, you know what? After what he experienced, probably as good as it can be. So he is, yeah. He's still working with a physical therapist. His plan is his mobility is increasing slowly, but he's had some conversations, and I can, without getting into the specialty, I think he's about as good as he's going to get, which is still phenomenal. He still made a phenomenal recovery considering the medical episodes that he had. And my hat goes off to him for the resiliency he showed. And he was still in the hospital asking the auxiliary program office as to whether or not he would be able to continue in that capacity and get to his 40 years. Which again is, just incredible. And we now have an acting staff sergeant filling his role, and he has offered his support for the administrative side of the house, sort of teaching those ropes, because he wasn't able to do that because of restrictions with COVID, so on and so forth. So. In the violent crime category, you'll probably, and I'll get to this when we also see when we get into the the billing, but you will see in the sexual assault category that we have seen a 40% increase in the assault category. Those are all increases which we have seen province-wide. Identifying the trend, identifying the exact trend why, whether it is better reporting, whether it has been the isolation, we as a group. I read over the Southern Georgian Bay Detachment about the recidivism of people being released from Penetanguishene. We don't have that same problem here, right? We don't have a major correctional institution in the area. You know, we don't even have the jail anymore. So as to why we are seeing that, I've asked my detective sergeant and an analyst to drill down more into that. You know, why are we seeing this increase, and does it just relate to the provincial one where there's just been an overall increase? But that does lead that overall for the 2021 year, we have seen a decrease from 2020 of a single percentage point. For the calls for service, and just to get into the billing summary, I will go through this, and then, Mr. Chair, I know I had some discussion with Mr. Simpson with regards to some of the activities that have occurred and some of the officers that were deployed. So I might just touch on that quickly when I'm done this portion, just for the board's attention. So you'll see that we have seen quite a steep increase in sexual assaults and assaults. Again, we're drilling down into that data to see where that is coming from. But overall, when you look at the overall violent crime, we're seeing a good decrease. We did see a pretty almost a doubling in the amount of hours billed with the theft of motor vehicles. That's not only because of the increase in theft of motor vehicles, but also because we are engaging our specialty units in further investigative follow-up. So they're claiming those hours as, you know, investigative follow-up. So we're going to see an increase, not just in the initial call for service, but in the overall. But again, in the property crime, for the violations, you are seeing, once again, we are seeing that overall there has been a reduction in the hours billed year over year back to the municipality. The last one I would like to just highlight is we've seen a small increase, but overall, you know, the trend continues to trend upwards in our overall Mental Health Act calls for service. Although these are more being billed, I attribute this as a good thing because we continue to engage our MCRT program, and those are a direct result of the officers who are reclassifying some calls to Mental Health Act, so we can get that MCRT program engaged with those people. Mr. Chair, with your permission, as I mentioned, I did have some information about, you know, not relevant to this report, but relevant to what's been happening in the last couple of months that I shared with Mr. Simpson in regards to billing. So there had been some questions from the municipalities and boards about how the billing would be affected with the deployments that occurred in Ottawa. And that was across the province. So for the board's information, there was a provincial deployment that occurred. And part of that provincial deployment, part of that provincial state of emergency was that depending on your region, but pretty much right across the OPP, all discretionary leave was canceled and all members were put on standby. So because this happened in our backyard, East Region's backyard, we were, the commissioner is obliged under the Police Services Act, when a request for assistance comes in, is to provide that assistance. So we did send quite a few members up to Ottawa to perform a wide variety of tasks. We have also been, if you've been driving through the city of Cornwall, you will have noticed an increased police presence, or a very visible police presence at the foot of the bridge here. And that's also related to the Freedom Convoy to ensure the security of that international link, but also that link to Akwesasne. I can tell you that all of the billing was coded back to a master registry, and the municipalities will not be billed for those officer hours. You are still only, the municipality or the counties are only being billed for the hours that were worked in SDG that they are regularly billed for. I know that my financial administrative clerk that works in Long Sault, she and I have had some very long hours going over every entry that goes into our reporting system to make sure that those hours are coded properly. So we wanted to make absolute sure that the billing was being done properly, and the municipality, or in this case the counties, was not charged for anything they shouldn't be. So with 125 members, there were quite a few corrections to be made, none that were malicious, but quite a few corrections that needed to be made, and she and I will have to sit down again after this meeting to go over some to make sure they're properly done, but I just wanted to reinforce that point. And that's, Mr. Chair, if there are no questions, that's what I have for this quarter's report.
Thank you. You said the municipalities won't be billed, which is a great thing, or the counties. I just want to know, like, what kind of cost was it to this area in terms of the amount of police that had to work for the, to ensure that the borders were safe, and of course you went to the city of Ottawa too. Was it a big cost?
I can say that man hours and man personality. I can simply say that for operational reasons, we aren't revealing, how many officers we had deployed. What I can assure you is that the adequacy standard that I set for the detachment, the number of patrol officers that we have for frontline calls for service was certainly adequate. To put a dollar figure on it would almost be impossible at this point. Certainly because, as I mentioned, we had the entire detachment almost on standby. And that, in my 20-year career, I have never experienced a time when every member has been on standby. So that we are able to call them and tell them, we need you to go here. So to be able to put a financial answer to that, I certainly couldn't. I can tell the board that did we have a reduction in administrative programs, such as our CSOs? Yes, we did. So they're, what we consider non-essential frontline programs. We did have to reduce those in order to provide staffing for the security at the ports of entry and to assist the Ottawa Police Service.
Motion to accept the report from October to December. Moved by Brian, seconded by Leslie. All in favor? Carried.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is for information too from the province. It basically states that volunteers will no longer be charged for these types of checks. It explains that in the letter and why.
Thank you. And report from Solicitor General, review of court security and prisoner transportation program.
Did everybody read the report? It's very comprehensive. There's a lot of information in there, and I'm certainly glad that Solgen's taking a look at how it's how it's been done and how to make it better. So hopefully they maintain that program, because I was part of a group back in the day that was working with AMO and Solgen to actually implement this program. back in 2008, around there. So hopefully the dollars are maintained and that, you know, because prisoner transport and things like that's very important. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of now that the recommendations are there, what comes out of the province. So I would encourage you to read it. There's a lot of information in there, but I think the report is well done. Thank you.
And we received a thank you letter from Baldwin House for our donation. Any items for discussion? New business? No, everything's cool. So I guess we have a motion for adjournment.
Yes, I'll make a motion for adjournment.
Moved by Leslie, seconded by Brian. All in favor? Carried.